Hello, this is Seb from Wirebox, and this video is about the rigid body simulation. So first, let's bring some mesh objects to the scene. We need mesh objects to add the rigid body attributes to them and make the simulation. So first, Shift A, add a mesh, and we choose plane. Then we can scale the plane, so this is gonna be like a base, like a ground of the simulation. The second object will be a cube, so the same, Shift A and choose the cube. And the third object, we're gonna add the icosphere. So let's grab the icosphere and then GZ to move it up and then GY to move it on the side. Now let's select the cube and the icosphere and S to scale. Let's select all of the objects, Ctrl A and apply the scale. So at the bottom we've got a timeline where we can control the animation. We can insert the keyframes for every object and its movement. By default, the animation starts at frame 1 and finishes at frame 250. Let's make the end of the animation at frame 76. So now to start the rigid body simulation, we have to add some physics properties to the objects that's gonna take part in the simulation. So on the right side, we've got a physics properties icon. We have to click this and then we see a bunch of options. But in this video, we're gonna use only the rigid body physics. So now let's add some physics to our mesh objects. Let's select the plane and assign the rigid body. Then let's click the cube and add rigid body. And then finally the icosphere and click rigid body. So all of our mesh objects are rigid bodies now, so we can start playing our animation. So let's hit the spacebar and you see all the rigid bodies fall down deep into the space. And that's because the 3D world got its own gravity, and this gravity takes part in the simulation. So let's go to the rigid body settings and then let's change the plane rigid body type from active to passive. So this way the plane will gonna stay still and the cube and the icosphere is gonna fall down and hit the plane. So that's how gravity works. We can change the gravity properties as well. We have to open the scene properties and then we've got the option gravity. When we untick this, there is no gravity, everything stays still. But when we open the gravity properties, we can change the power of the gravity, basically how strong the gravity is, as well as the direction of the gravity. So let's set the gravity z-axis to 0 and let's change the y-axis to minus 9.8. Now the gravity works along the y-axis. So let's go back to the physics properties and now let's grab our icosphere and set it exactly under the cube. And now when we play the animation, you see that the cube basically fall onto the icosphere. And you see the result. Now let's change the mass of our object. There is an option mass. So let's change the mass of the cube first to 10 kilograms. And then let's make the sphere very light. So 0.01 kilograms. Play the animation and see what's happened. So you see the change in the outcome. Basically the heavy cube hit the light sphere. And it was so light that it flew away in the space. Below the mass you've got a dynamic option, which basically enables and disables rigid body simulation for a particular object. And below you've got the option animated. So what you can do, you can animate the object apart from the physics that take part in the simulation, like gravity and collisions. So for example, let's select the ground, the plane, and then let's take the animated option. Let's also increase the timeline length to 250 frames. And when I've got the plane selected, I can hit spacebar to play and then G for grab the plane. And as you see, I can move it on the sides, up and down, and I can change the animation in real time. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna animate the icosphere so it moves along the y-axis, then hit the cube and falls down on the floor. So the cube falls down anyway due to gravity, and then the icosphere travels this way and hit the cube in the air, travel a bit more and fall on the ground. Let's animate this situation. So what I need to do, I need to set the timeline to frame 1 first, then select the icosphere, then I need to click animated in the rigid body properties for the sphere, then open the object property panel and keyframe the Y position of the icosphere, because it's gonna move on the Y axis. Then let's move the slider in the timeline and check where the cube hits the icosphere. So they're gonna meet at frame number 16. So let's move the icosphere to the position when it's gonna hit the cube and keyframe this as well. Let's play the animation. Everything looks fine, but the icosphere after hitting the cube stays still. So let's move it further on the y-axis. Let's go to frame number 32, then move the icosphere and keyframe again. Now when we play the animation, the icosphere hits the cube, go further but doesn't fall down. Now let's go to frame number 1, and under the animated you've got a small keyframes, we have to keyframe the animated as well. So click this, then go to frame number 16, keyframe again, and then let's go to frame number 24, untick the animated and keyframe again. So this way the sphere is gonna fall after hitting the cube. And now let's check another options that we can adjust in a rigid body. So under the settings we've got the collisions, and then shape and the source. Every rigid body under collisions is shaped to convex hull. So let's check what does it mean. Let's bring the monkey on the scene. Let's play the animation, and it looks like when hitting the floor, behave normally. But then when we change the shape of our monkey to a box, and when we play the animation, Blender calculates the collision monkey with the floor as a cube hit the floor. We can also change the collision of the shape to sphere, and it behaves like a sphere. And let's one more change the shape of the collision of our monkey to cylinder this time, and it looks like the cylinder hits the floor. So as you see, this option changed the boundaries of the collision of an object, and for the monkey it looks like the convex hull is the best. But let's check what the convex hull really mean. Let's select the plane, let's go to edit mode, let's select the face, and then I for inset, then let's select all the faces all around except the middle one, then E for extrude, and we created something like an open box. And our open box shape is now convex hull. When we play the simulation, you see that all the objects didn't fall inside the open box, and they just stay on top, like if there is some invisible glass surface. So let's change the shape to box, because it looks like a box. And now you see it looks better, everything goes inside the box, but the cube and the sphere goes through the wall. And this is because when you use convex hull, Blender doesn't calculate all the details and doesn't consider all the vertices that you've got in the shape. It just sees the outer vertices and treat the shape approximately. So in this case, the best if you can change the shape to mesh. This is more detailed and consider all the vertices. And now when we play our simulation, you see that all the objects stay in the box. And below the shape we've got one more option, which is the source. By default is set to deform. Now I'm gonna show you what this means. So let's add some modifier to our open box, to our plane. Let's click the reticle wrench, then add modifier, generate, and let's add solidify modifier. And we leave it as it is, we don't apply the modifier. Let's play the animation, and you see that our object does not consider our modifier because we didn't apply it. If we apply it, then the object will consider the modifier. We can change the source to base, and it's the same. Just consider only the base mesh of the object. And now finally, if we switch it to final, then it will consider all the modifiers even if they're not applied yet. And now at the end I'm gonna show you what you can do if you've got a big detail animation and it takes a lot of time when loading in a timeline. So you can simply bake it once and play it every time you want to have a look at this. Then you have to go to the scene properties, the same place when we're looking for the gravity, open it. On the way you can change the simulation range. Let's set the end to frame 352 as we've got it in the timeline. Then underneath you've got the rigid body world, and you've got the option cache, where you have to set the simulation end as well. Under the settings you can change the speed of the animation. And if everything is ready, you can click bake. In this simulation it took seconds, but if you've got something bigger, it might take longer. But once you bake it, you can always play it. And then to change anything in the simulation, you have to delete the bake and then change it and then bake again. So that's it in this video, I hope you like it. If so, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and see you next time, bye!